Hi everyone, this is Guilherme Teles, and today we will be talking about the new AWS Security Specialty exam, the SCS C02. So let's go directly to that because this is a very important matter. Okay, so let's get started. So first we need to start beyond the certification exam. So let's talk about the essential skills for cloud security architect. So cloud security requires architects to learn core skills and emerging skills that spans strategy, leadership, operational areas, and techniques of interest based on their unique circumstances. Cloud service provider tools and third-party vendors services provide security architects with a variety of resources to build effective defenses. Architects will need to learn how to meet cloud security requirements with these emerging capabilities. So what we have here, first we need to pay attention to the core skills and the cloud provider tools, but not limited to them. On the journey of studying for your security specialty exam from AWS, you have the chance to understand different terminologies, different skills based on the AWS platform. So for example, when we talk about compliance frameworks, security frameworks, we will be talking about the CIS, the Cloud Security Alliance, NIST frameworks, ISO, and so many others. When we talk about web application firewalls, you have contact with AWS WAF. But if you do some research, if you are on the technology field or if you are on the security field, you certainly have knowledge of some other tools. But if you are not familiar with this kind of technology, you don't have to worry at this moment, but later on after the exam. So focus on the exam, focus on what are the core skills, and of course you'll be talking about the emerging skills on after the exam, but you needed to pay attention that the essential skills and the market skills, for example, to apply for a job and to do your daily basis, don't necessarily need to think about the third-party vendors, but you need to focus on what you have available for your cloud provider, okay? So let's keep going. When we talk about, for example, the recommendations, okay? So let me just put just a screen here. Okay, so this is the other screen. Let me just shift here. Okay, everything's set now. Sorry about that. And the recommendations. Okay, we are talking about beyond the certification exam. So first, I need to scare you a little because the security market is not limited just to IT certifications, to cloud certifications, to the AWS Security Specialty exam. But if you are here, if you're watching this information, if you aim to achieve the AWS Security exam, you certainly will need to have those skills, those abilities to go beyond the IT certification exam. So this is why I'm talking to you right now. Pay attention to those bullet points here. So infrastructure, platform, and software security deployments, native cloud security tools. So you need to understand the whole tools of the AWS focus on security, but not limited to that. You needed to pay attention on how to secure, for example, your RDS, your EC2, your S3 bucket, how you can assure that your logs are immutable and things like that. You need to pay attention to cloud IAM standards because IAM right now is the new security perimeter according to Gartner, because going back in the past a little, we might think that the perimeter and what was exposed to the internet was the most important thing, but right now, if you can't provision and deprovision properly your users, your service account, your access keys, you certainly doesn't have control of your environment, so you need to pay attention to that. You need to pay attention, of course, to cloud native application that protect your platform, that go directly to the security specialty and the proper way that you can ensure that you are using the native controls of your cloud provider. And you need to understand cloud security frameworks, patterns, and best practice, focus on all of that. You need to pay attention to business architecture, strategic planning, because, for example, when we talk about security, especially in those days, we need to start basically and directly with the less invasive actions, and then you shift to the most and more invasive actions. So this is how I do my business and my consulting. First, you need to start with the assessment, the understanding, and then you start with the practical quick wins with less invasive, and then you shift to more invasive. You need to think about WAP, CDN, DDoS, cloud services. This is basic perimeter. We need to talk about cloud DevSecOps, focusing most basically on security, of course, but you need to have the understanding of application security, pen testing, and some basic programming skills. I'm not saying that you need to be a programmer, but you need to at least understand the code and the functions. And of course, you need to have knowledge of the deployment and infrastructure. Nowadays, we talk about operational resilience that focus not only on infrastructure security, but also on cost. So you need to think about that and understand all of that. This is why later on this video, I'll be talking about my path to achieve the AWS security exam and why it's so important to have a strong base and solid on the associated exams. So you also need to understand container service security. You need to understand cloud risk management and how to categorize all of that. You need to understand the cloud security architecture methods and, of course, the governance on that, hypervisor security, and privacy protection. So you must be wondering, this is lots of things to go beyond the certification exam, but most of those points outlined here, they are covered on the roadmap to the AWS security exam. So lots of them I didn't know until I got in the path to study for this exam. So don't you worry about that. I'm just outlining here because those are important concepts and disciplines that you need to ensure that you have the knowledge when you apply for a job. Okay, so this is why those are here. And an important thing to outline also, you need to, okay, this is from Gartner, so this is not from my head, so I have done a lot of research, so we have the link here. And we need to understand, for example, the architecture and skill scope. So if you be in a position of leadership, you need to think about the privacy advocacy, political navigation, strategic planning, business architecture. You need to understand the best and how the cloud security frameworks will kind of fit in your company. So you need to think about that. And if you are going to a technical position, a technical role, you need to understand the cloud DevSecOps, container security, IAM, and lots of other capabilities here like CSPM, CASB, SAS, WAF, CDN, DDoS, and lots of things. So this is why the security guide, the cloud security is so important these days, because it's not limited only to the operational. You have space to talk to the C-level. There are some positions that are specifically to talk to the C-level for you to construct and develop the strategy and just follow up the outcomes and the deliverables. So this is why the cloud security position is so important these days. And of course, we'll be talking about the salary later. But let's talk about the specialty exam. So the AWS certification specialists are for professionals with skills very advanced in responsibilities specific at the AWS cloud. Those exams, they are designed to reinforce and validate the eligibility for a person for specific functions demanding previous experience and advanced skills. So you need to understand that when we talk about a specialty exam, you'll be focused just on that, just on security. So you need to understand the security of all of things on AWS, on EC2, on RDS, on S3, on Trails, logging, IAM, and things like that, and not just limited to the security products. You need to understand the whole capability of security and how to apply security among AWS, okay? So let's keep going. The security is specialty certification specifically. So the name of the certification points immediately to the focus, security on AWS. Although I have mentioned earlier that this specialty exam, they deal with functions more specific. So security on AWS is broad and extensive. There are many topics involved when we talk about security in AWS and wherever services AWS native or third-party tools. So you might be wondering, should I know third-party tools to the security specialty? Not at all. But it's worth to mention that the security market, the marketplace from AWS, and we have that there are lots of tools, lots of options. You need to understand that. So if you are in the IT field, you certainly have knowledge of something like vault technology, cryptographic, logging, web application firewalls. You certainly have knowledge of that. But if you are not familiar with those terms, you don't have to worry, because when you go through this study, you have the knowledge that you really need, okay? So previous experience for the security exam. Oh, okay. I thought it was locked up. So let's keep going. Okay. You need to have prior knowledge and experience dealing with security in the cloud. It will allow you to understand the concepts and strategies that appear for the AWS. You also find more easy to understand the type of questions and scenarios in your exam. So you need to pay attention to that. The AWS documentations and white paper will be your best friend here. So take a look at the main source. So I will recommend reading the following white papers. This is a lot, of course. So the white papers, they are quite direct. And I think this is your best friend here because, for example, this is a lot. I know that you don't have to complain. But if you are on a journey to really focus on cloud security, if this is your desire, if it is the career that you want, you certainly need to have the knowledge on all of that. I promise I will have a video on each one of those later on. But if you want to start immediately studying, you should aim for those white papers because they have a strong and solid base study for the AWS security exam. I used them extensively when I tried for the second round. Yeah, I have to do twice the exam to pass because I wasn't paying attention to the details. And the details on the exam, in my opinion, are on KMS, Key Management Service, and of course logging. But not limited to that, but you need to have a strong base on KMS to pass that exam, okay? And going forward, which path did I take? So you might be wondering, should I go directly to the security specialty? Should I do some course? What I need to do to really pass on this exam? So if I go directly to my experience, I first did the Solutions Architect Associate. I was really afraid of that exam because it was my first cloud exam, AWS. and luckily I passed it on the first try. I used a book from Saiba, and it was really amazing that I achieved it on the first try. Then I have done, after 2 months, the SysOps administrator. I was really afraid because I wasn't sure that I was able to really do this, to pass this exam. And then I go to the developer associated exam. So why I have done this and why I suggest you to take this approach? Because the base knowledge for everything on AWS are on these 3 exams: the Solutions Architect, the SysOps Administrator, and the Developer Associate. And this is what I recommend to my students here in Brazil because of the program that I have, the Roadmap Cloud. And it's not yet available in English, but it will be soon. And of course, if you want more information, please let me know directly on my LinkedIn profile, on a direct message on my Instagram, or here a note on YouTube video. But I recommend you go if you don't have any experience in IT or even cloud environment. Aim for these 3 exams, and of course try to achieve first the cloud practitioner exam also, so you have 4 certifications in a period of 12 months. It is achievable. And later on, you can be sure to go to the security specialty. This is the path that I have taken. Okay, so this is achievable. This is realistic. So I really recommend that you go through this path. You don't need to worry about the professionals exam. You really need to focus on this base, the 3 associate, and then you go to the security specialty. Okay, this is my approach here. And what's the average salary after studying 1 year for cloud security to achieve the security specialty? Well, if you are in the US or Canada or Australia or in Europe, you certainly have that basic salary here. Okay, so of course you will aim for $200,000 a year. But the basic salary will be $126,000, so you can be certain to earn $10,000 a month. But if you are not in the US, if you are not in Europe, Australia, or Canada, you can go for 60% of that. So we are talking about $6,000. $5,000 a month to work remotely from anywhere in the world. If you are a freelancer, and there are certainly lots of places to go if you are a freelancer, you can achieve also a good salary, but the base is that $126 a year. Of course, if you are in Latin America, if you are in Asia, there will be certainly some difference, but you can aim to that salary, okay? Because of what? Because there are lack of professionals. And if you want to go to the US, if you want to go to Canada, to Europe, or even to Australia, you have that base salary. So this is a good salary to aim for and to look for. And specifically when you talk about freelancers with agency, you can aim for that hour. 76 is a top hour, but you can aim for, I think so, $50 an hour, and it's a good salary, especially if you are in Latin America or if you work remotely, because you won't have any other expenses. So I think this is a good salary to start, and it is also a good salary that's worth a year or 2 years of hard study to achieve that. Guilherme, so you are talking about taking 2 years to achieve that salary. The top salary, yes. But of course, if you are new to cloud technology, if you are new in the IT field, you certainly have a basic salary of $3,000 to $4,000 a month. And it is also a good salary. But you need to understand something. I recommend you study at least 1 month for the cloud practitioner exam, and the base of 60 days of study for each associated exam. Of course, you can achieve that in 30 days study, But I'm considering here, if you don't pass, you need to have another try. So 60 days will be a good timeline. So 2 months of study for each exam. We are talking about 4 to 5 exams. We are talking about a year. And in 6 months, you can consider 3 tries of the security specialty. Of course, you can go for the first try. So we are considering here 18 months tops to go and have the knowledge and the preparation to have that average salary. So I think it's worth it, okay? And going forward, what's the focus of the exam? So the new exam have those 6 domains. So we have threat detection and incident response with 14% of the exam, security logging and monitoring, 18%, infrastructure security, 20%. So right now, security and logging and monitoring, you need to study that for architect, associate, and SysOps, especially for the SysOps exam. Infrastructure security, you have plenty of this knowledge on the associated, the architect associate. Identity and access management, the architect associate. Data protection, SysOps administrator, management and security and governance, cloud practitioner, and much more on the security specialty. So take a look and have the feeling that I think 60 to 70% of this exam are on the basic associated exam. Of course, KMS and other things and advanced topics are only for this exam, and the way that the questions will be asked and the scenarios and things like that, you need to make sure that, for example, you have the maturity and hard study and read all the white papers, but the solid foundations are on the associated exam. And the same applies to the other specialty and of course the professional exam. So pay attention to this on the base knowledge that you need to have, okay? So going forward, what is most important for domain 1? So for domain 1, the knowledge is on AWS best practice for incident response, incidents in the cloud, roles and responsibilities in the incident response plan, and the AWS security discovery format. So you need to pay attention to those concepts for domain 1, threat detection and incident response. So the skills will be implementing credential invalidation and rotation strategy in response to compromises. So for example, you need to understand how to handle access keys, users, password policies, secrets management, how to isolate the AWS resources, how to design and implement playbooks and runbooks for incident response, and deploy security services such as Security Hub, Amazon Macie, GuardDuty, Inspector, Config, Detective, and IAM. I know that this is a lot, but you have the free tier, so you have 30 days to experiment and to use and to understand. So if you don't have an account, you certainly have an environment and you certainly have the reinvent videos to take a look at each of these tools to take the knowledge and to have the understanding. So you need to have the basic understanding of the focus of each tool and how to consider them, okay? Going forward to domain 2, you have security logging and monitoring. So this is basically CloudTrail, CloudWatch, and Event Bridge, and how to automate alerts with AWS Config, Lambda, Amazon, Amazon SNS, and Security Hub. And of course, you need to have the basic for metrics and baselines with GuardDuty and Systems Manager. Systems Manager is a topic that goes a lot on this exam, so you need to pay attention to this. Going forward to infrastructure security, you need to have the understanding of AWS WAF, load balancers, Route 53, CloudFront Shield, and things like that. If you go forward, Identity and Access Manager, you need to have the understanding for least privilege. And of course, the least privilege for IAM, for load balancers, for Route 53, and not limited to Cognito and the Access Advisor. The Access Advisor is good to have the understanding for the least privilege. So you must be wondering how to track and how to have the knowledge of, for example, for which roles and which permissions each team will be using, the best way to manage IAM, the rule to use it, to don't use access keys, to use roles instead, to have only the basic and the level of compliance that you need and things like that. And of course, MFA for everything, even for buckets. Going for data protection, you need to have the understanding for TLS, for VPN, for RDP. And one thing that is very curious, systems manager that can, so we're talking about the session manager, that this is a way to access Linux and Windows servers through your browser, so you won't need to manage anymore the pen files to go through and to distribute that. You need to understand the session manager concept, and of course try to understand how to attach different things like elastic load balancers, CloudFront, AWS WAF, and how to isolate those kind of environment with lateral movement and things like that. So this is lots of concepts, but you need to pay attention to all of that. And of course, the last domain, but not less important, the management and security governance. So you need to elaborate one strategy for deploying and managing centrally AWS accounts. So you need to have the concept on deploying lots of different tools, lots of different compliance guardrails with control tower, with AWS config, with automating AWS organization to deploy, for example, GuardDuty, to deploy a way of centralizing logging and things like that. So this is why the white papers are kind of really good to have the whole understanding. So going to review all of this, I think you should start really, let me go back just a little here. Those white papers are the core fundamental for the exam and for your security journey. Take a look at those white papers. They helped me a lot because I neglected them at the first try. So when I went through and read all of them, for example, Introduction to AWS Security, will have the understanding of the concepts and the vocabulary and how things are done by design, and the governance and the best practice for logging, for DDoS, for perimeter protection, and of course, how to manage not only KMS and how to manage IAM, the provisioning and deprovisioning of all of things. So you need to pay attention to those concepts. So if you want to start with something, don't forget to register for the security event that I will be conducting. You just need to go to my website and go and download and start with those recommended white papers, because this is the solid base for everything. And don't underestimate the power and the knowledge of those 3 certifications here. You need to start with the associated exam. Don't go directly to the security specialty. I don't recommend you do this, okay? The knowledge for any AWS exam are complementary, and one thing that you study for the solutions architect will be solid base for the CSOP, and will be the solid base for the developer, and ultimately will be for the security exam. So this is my last advice here, but don't forget to join the event here. So go to my website. I'll be conducting a very good event on cloud security and how to achieve that certification specifically. So if you have any doubt on implementations, on study for your exam on AWS, please let me know. I have plenty of resources and I try to direct you. I have been doing certifications for the past 20 years in my whole career. I have achieved so far the 3 associated exams, the security specialty, and the architect professional also. And I'm looking forward to achieve more certifications, and this is why the name of my product is Roadmap. I want to give you the correct direction that you need to follow, and I do this because I love to teach, and I'm here if you need anything. Please let me know, and if you have any questions, just go directly to me.